in Des Moines with Andrew Yang, presidential candidate in the days leading up to the Iowa caucuses. Andrew, thank you very much for joining us. I want to start with the universal basic income, because one of the premises of your campaign is that automation, robots, and so forth are decimating the American worker, and so we need a basic income. Yet, if you thought that were playing out, you'd expect to see it in the data with really strong growth, really strong productivity, and sluggish employment. Instead, we seem to see the exact opposite. Unemployment at 3.5%, terrible productivity numbers, weak GDP growth. Why isn't the sort of theory of your case, what you see happening on the ground, showing up in what anything economists look at?
Well, Joe, if you dig a little deeper, you see that headline unemployment is masking the fact that millions of Americans have left the workforce. Labor force participation is down to 63%, a multi-decade low, and close to the levels of El Salvador and Costa Rica. Because many people have been pushed out of the workforce, they don't see a path forward, and our headline unemployment number masks that. It also masks the fact that many Americans, because they're struggling to find the right opportunities, are working in very low productivity, low wage, low advancement positions. And that's why you're seeing the productivity problems. So to me, the numbers actually tell the right story if you look a little deeper.
One of the things that we've seen President Trump, he's been very critical of his own Fed chair. There was criticism of Obama for not taking the Federal Reserve seriously enough. If you were president, would you reappoint Jerome Powell, or would you look for a Federal Reserve chairman who would dovetail more with what you're doing in terms of getting buying power into the hands of the middle and lower classes?
Well, to me, job one is to get more money directly in the hands of the American people in the form of the universal basic income. And so the Fed primarily is controlling interest rates, which is one piece of the puzzle, but I'm obviously focused more on just direct cash in people's hands, and that to me is the most powerful thing we can do.
But do you worry that if there were an increase in buying power, that the Federal Reserve in its framework would be quicker to hike rates and sort of undermine the GDP growth or the growth that you would like to see as a result of the UBI?
Well, to me, the Fed historically has had a couple of main economic goals, and I don't think those goals are inconsistent with putting money into people's hands at all. And I would trust an independent Fed to be able to make the right call on interest rates.
People love the idea, and polls show it, of getting $1,000 a month. There's a certain undeniable appealing aspect of that. However, I'm not sure if people totally understand there would be a trade-off. So some people would have to give up existing cash benefits. What would people have to give up in order to be eligible for the freedom dividend, which, as you say, is opt-in? And why make that an opt-in choice? Why not just allow people to keep what they have in terms of cash benefits for things like food stamps and then get an extra $1,000 a month on top of it?
Well, the vast majority of Americans would just see $1,000 a month increase in buying power. The only people that might have to make a choice are people who are receiving direct cash assistance for things like heating oil or food stamps. And in those cases, virtually none of them are getting $1,000 a month right now. So this is a huge win. And when I talk to people who are recipients of these programs, they live in constant fear of losing their benefits, or of failing to meet some administrative or reporting requirement. So if they were getting a stress-free $1,000 a month, it would be a massive upgrade. And it also has no negative incentive for them to make more money, because right now our assistance programs are predicated on you being below a certain income level.
Let's talk about some non-UBI topics. Every debate that I've seen, every debate that I've seen seems to start off with some 30-minute discussion about healthcare, and I think a lot of people tune out or their eyes glaze over. But there does seem to be some ambiguity about exactly where you stand. Would people be able to keep private insurance under an Andrew Yang ideal healthcare system, or would it be a single payer, single sort of system, more like what Bernie Sanders has proposed?
We need to have universal health care in this country that's not linked to your job, because right now linking it to your job is not a great system on many, many levels. But I would not legislate away private insurance. Millions of Americans enjoy their private insurance plans. They made choices based on those plans. To me, the onus has to be on the government to demonstrate that we can do a more effective job than private insurance companies and have Americans make that choice for themselves over time.
Your campaign has, you've advocated legalization of marijuana, and you actually sell merch with cannabis leaves on it. We're sort of at this weird juncture where there's a lot of momentum towards liberalization of marijuana use. At the same time, there is an incredible crackdown on things like nicotine, vaping, and cigarette use. Vaping, tobacco use. I'm curious if you think that makes sense, and do you think under your administration, would you continue to tighten the regulations about, say, flavored vaping products at the same time as liberalizing people's access to marijuana?
Well, the flavored vaping products seem to be marketed towards young people and kids in particular, and there have been a number of deaths as a result of these products. So to me, legalizing marijuana and our treatment of those products are actually two very different questions. Marijuana has been very, very effective as a means of pain relief for many, many Americans, and it's less dangerous, frankly, than the prescription opiates that have been killing Americans in record numbers for years now. So that's why I'm for legalizing marijuana, but to me, we have to figure out how to not have these vaping products marketed to kids and how to ensure that they're not literally causing deaths among young people.
But should adults be able to enjoy flavored vaping products, their Juul pods and so forth?
Well, if we can balance the public health concerns and individual agency, I'm not for an outright ban.
So your campaign has obviously attracted very sort of wide, unusual support from people who previously were disengaged, or maybe they were Trump supporters, or maybe they have other niche interests. There's a lot of people who are like really big cryptocurrency fans, for example, who have, they love Andrew Yang, and when I talk to them, they're like, yeah, ask him about crypto. What would you do with regards to regulation of that and, say, Bitcoin exchanges? Do you support the right of people to use their bank accounts, credit cards, et cetera, to move into cryptocurrencies and other forms of money that aren't as easily tracked by centralized authorities?
Well, what I would say is that we need to have a uniform set of rules and regulations around cryptocurrency use nationwide, because right now we're stuck with this hodgepodge of state-by-state treatments, and it's bad for everybody. It's bad for innovators who want to invest in this space. So that would be my priority, is just clear and transparent rules so that everyone knows where they can head in the future and that we can maintain competitiveness. Because to me, the underlying technology of cryptocurrencies is very, very high potential, and we should be investing in it.
But do you support sort of monetary freedom for people that want to move their money away from fiat currencies, get their money out of the banking system into cryptocurrencies? Because right now you have banks restricting payments to these platforms and so forth, and people feel like government regulations are essentially impeding in their desire to do that.
Well, right now, people who are investing in these currencies are finding a way to, to do so and make use of their investments. No, I don't think that you could impede it with regulation if you tried.
Turning to what I think is probably one of the biggest stories right now, especially for the market, and people are very concerned about it. Do you think that the Trump administration so far is doing the right thing in terms of keeping America protected from the new coronavirus?
Well, certainly it's encouraging that we've only had a handful of reported cases so far, but the American people know that this is a very serious threat. And to the extent that different branches of government can help the CDC maintain the control of this virus and its spread, I think the American people would applaud that.
Lastly, you've become this phenomenon. I mean, a year ago, no one had ever heard of you.
Joe. It's very
now
nice
you're now you're this nationally known name. Every day, there's another viral video of you, whether it's at a gospel chorus or dancing at a senior center, and people are sort of captivated by you. You're extremely popular. If that popularity doesn't translate into the White House, do you have a vision for how either you or the sort of Yang Gang movement that is built up behind you could continue to press your interests after this campaign?
The problems that have animated me and the Yang Gang are just getting bigger and stronger. And to me, my job is to help solve them and make sure that your kids and mine actually grow up in a country that we're excited to pass on to them. I think I can do the most effective job of moving our country in the right direction as president. But I'm not going anywhere because the problems aren't going anywhere, and your kids and my kids aren't going anywhere.
So you plan to continue to be a public figure regardless of whether that's in the White House or not?
I just want to help solve these problems, Joe. Frankly, if someone else were solving all these problems and I could just kick back and hang out with my kids, that would be great. I don't have some intrinsic desire necessarily to like boss around lots and lots of people. I mean, if things were getting done in a really, really high level way and I could just applaud like the rest of American citizens, that would be tremendous. But unfortunately, that's not the country we live in. That's why I'm running. And as long as that stays the case, and I think I can contribute, I'll still be here doing my best.
All right, Andrew Yang, thank you very much.
Team, subscribe for more of these type of videos.